All right, let's do this. Very good. What about the reading exercise we didn't do on Friday? Did you do it at home? Could you finish it? Was it difficult? This one over here. Anyone? What's up? Too much silence. What happened, guys?
I did it. I got three or two, I don't remember, wrong questions. Well,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think it was a little bit confusing for me.
It always is.
Not difficult, but confusing.
I know the title, the titling the paragraphs is always a very confusing exercise. Very, 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 because it's about paying attention on the on a very specific portion of information. No, it is always like that.
Yes, and I think that that's the point, that for you to get confused,
Mhm. Exactly.
and they were like titles that can match with two exercises. Have to pay
With two
attention.
paragraphs.
Yes.
That happens very often because sometimes two paragraphs seem to have the same context or they to speak about the same thing, and there is always one little sentence that changes the whole meaning. Be careful with those ones. This particular exercise is very similar to one that you can have in a certificate exam. So this particular exercise, I think, is super important to have clear why everything was right, why everything was wrong. Study very, very careful these type of exercises. Um, there are, let's check, types of reading exercises in TOEFL. In this particular case, we are going to do a TOEFL test to verify if we pass the the level. I mean, two of you need to pass TOEFL for your school's uh, certificate, and the others are going to use it to determine if you have the abilities of the course. No, so the reading section of TOEFL is formed this way. Look at this. So this article has an explanation of how questions are. There are 10 different types of questions. Look at this. You know, one is called factual information, negative factual information, vocabulary information. What is factual? What does factual sound like? What do you think this is?
Like based in facts.
Okay, Connie has a very good closing. Based in facts. What about Isra?
Yes, just I was just to say this something immediately, fastly.
Immediately.
Yeah,
What do you mean immediately?
well, fastly away.
Wait, fastly doesn't exist. That was an exception, remember? It's fast adjective
Oh,
and fast adverb.
Okay, so I mean fast away.
Fast, again?
Yes, fast.
Uh-huh.
Something is something that is fast.
Something that is fast. And fast, okay. No, no, no.
No,
It's not. It's not. So it's not fast. What something we need to think about is the word formation. No, word formation is one word plus a suffix. Here we are talking about the word fact, right? What is a fact? Some piece of information that is true, right? So if something is factual, is based on facts, right? Based on or containing facts, right? True information. What it means is that there is always going to be explicit exercises and explicit information in the text that we are going to read. Factual information and negative factual information. You see? Read these, for example. Help me, Israel. Let's read what is factual information.
factual or factual information. Is the question per page. This question targets statements or facts explicitly present in this passage. In the passage, please go to page 20 of International Finance, like above, and read the first paragraph. This paragraph begins with the phrase countries interact. Example, according to the author in the paragraph, what does exchange rate measure? The difference between import and export, the way to convert one currency into another currency, the speed of exchange of goods between countries, the rate of change in international trade. The correct answer is 2. Why? The paragraph states that the exchange rate, I can see the rest of the paragraph. Okay, thanks. The paragraph states that the exchange rate measures the numbers of units of the currency that exchange for 1 unit of
Watch out, it doesn't say of the currency.
uh, the paragraph states that the exchange rate measures the numbers of units of one currency that exchanges for 1 unit for another currency.
That's right. That's right. I don't know where, but because the passage is like, please go to page 20 of International Finance, linked above, and read the first paragraph. I think this is a mistake. This paragraph is not really saying that. But the idea is this: you need to find specific information and specific facts about the reading, right? This is the detail. It says here the way to convert one currency into another currency, because probably the reading was talking about how things exchange. This is precisely factual information, which is very contrasting to the other type of questions where they are going to ask you, hey, what do you think is the intention of the author? You know? Which I think are the most difficult ones. Factual information and negative factual information is always the easiest of the questions that we have here, right? Negative factual information. It says over here, for example, which one is not true about the passage, and you gotta read carefully. No, what is true and what is not true. And coming to the last one, vocabulary information, right? This is when your B2 abilities must come out. A B2 ability is the ability to paraphrase. If you have synonyms in your mind, easier synonyms to determine what the other word is talking about, then you can pass this exam easily. Read number 3. Help me, Chucho.
Yes, good morning. Vocabulary information. 3 to 5 questions per passage. Everyone's favorite. These tasks are all about how well you understand certain vocabulary in the context of the paragraph you are working with. Example, in paragraph 3, page 20, the word back is classed in meaning to, but, sold, return, supported. The correct answer is 4, backed. In this context, means supported by or influenced by.
Perfect. Which is, there are many ways you can solve this type of questions. One, checking the context of the sentence. What is the in what context they say the word. Other, by collocation, because the word back is always similar to backup, which is similar to support, right? Automatically, it can give you a good synonym if you have enough vocabulary in mind. So it's very good to have 2 or 3 words that you can identify together by exploring the vocabulary, by exploring the dictionary, etc. Okay? Then we go to the inference questions. What are inference questions? These are the difficult ones. You need to understand what the question is talking about. Sometimes it's not factual. It's more like, well, I think the author means this. Or I suppose the idea of the paragraph is that, you know? Inference questions are always very, very tricky. You gotta pay attention a lot on these ones. Let's read this one. Help me, Connie.
The inference question requires that you know with the general meaning of the given paragraph in the passage. You must be able to infer information from the one explicitly stated. Correct answer to these types of tasks will not be present in the text, but should be obvious if you comprehend
The
the
first pronunciation
passages,
was correct. Comprehend.
comprehend the passage well. Inference questions, no, okay. Inference 1-3 question per passage. To answer an inference question correctly, you should be able to understand an idea or an argument that is strongly implied, but not stated in the text. Analyzing
Again,
information,
state is present.
but not state in the text.
State is present. How do you pronounce the past of state?
State,
Sounds like present. If the verb ends in T,
stated,
exactly. That
but
makes
not
sense.
stated in the text.
Perfect. Continue.
Analyzing information in the paragraphs and thinking logically about it are key. Example, which of the following can be inferred from this first paragraph on the page 2? The IMF regulates exchange rates throughout the world. Independently floating currencies are uncommon in capitalist markets. Central banks have full power to set the currency systems in their respective countries. Exchange rate values remain largely stable or over time.
Again, how do exchange rate values remain?
Exchange rate values remain largely
Mm-hmm.
stable,
How do you pronounce this without the li?
large,
Exactly. So when you add li,
largely.
the pronunciation is the same. Excellent.
Okay, so
What was it?
exchange rate values remain largely stable over time.
That's right.
The correct answer is 3. Every other choice contradicts the information in the paragraph.
Okay, so look at how contradiction is a very important element in some of the questions, right? Like sometimes the options are going to say the opposite thing of what they are trying to say. So having information from or some words from the text doesn't mean the answer is correct, because sometimes you have the vocabulary in the options, but the idea is saying the contrary. So that particular ability is one of the most important parts of TOEFL, right? Both TOEFL and Cambridge certificate. So it should be very, very important to have in mind. Reading carefully, understanding carefully. Yes, speed is important in this case, but not as much as comprehension, complete comprehension. Okay? Number 5, rhetorical. Help me, Connie.
Rhetorical purpose. While the factual information question might ask you about the what or how, the rhetorical purpose section is all about the why. If you understand the reasoning behind the author's way of presenting information, you are good to go for the rhetorical purpose task. Example, refer once again to page 22, paragraphs 2 and 4. Why does the author mention China and Russia there? 1, to demonstrate different types of fixed currency systems, to compare their economy performance, to illustrate the power they currencies play in the international market. 4, to explain the benefits of free-flowing currency. The correct answer is 1, as both countries are simply listed as examples of different currency systems.
That's right. Good. And this is again to understand the reasoning behind the author's way of presenting information. That's the most important part, right? Why did the actor is trying to say this information, right? What is the intention of the text? I think that's the most difficult part to verify, because some of us take ideas that we already have about the topic. For example, let's imagine that we are, in the case of Chucho, we are talking about economy, we are talking about finance. Chucho is studying finances in economy in his university, and he will have information about finances and economy. So if you influence your personal experience with the reading and the audio, sometimes you will not pay attention to what the author's intention is. So this is a very common mistake in this type of tests. If a text of nutrition comes out and I have experience on nutrition, I need to stop my personal expertise, right, in order to really pay attention on what the intention of the author is. Because precisely TOEFL tricks you on information that is more commonly known, information that is probably in your mind, information that you already saw in other places, in order to trick you to find the correct answer, right? This is a classic TOEFL, a classic TOEFL in every other case. And this particular tip works on the listening and the reading. You know, like getting your own influence from your own expertise. That's why I give you controversial videos sometimes. When I give you a controversial video, it has information that we are supposed to have other type of information, and then when you see the video, you learn information that you didn't have before, right? That's the point of the videos that I show you, you know. So it's a very, very good practice, watching documentaries and checking other points of view. You need to be super open-minded when doing a TOEFL, right? Now, according to this, for example, Kani and Isra and Itze, they already had done a Cambridge test, a B2 Cambridge test. It's very different, no? The experience between TOEFL and as I'm describing it is very different from the first certificate, right? Like what was the challenge on the first certificate, the B2? What can we tell me about the B2 certificate?
Like I say, I think one of the most important challenge is uh, the tricky
Quizzes.
way that the exam is done. Why? Because sometimes we can read paragraph or instruction, but if we don't understand really a the context of the paragraph, probably we found an answers and we can't think or we think that this is the correct answers, but not really, you know. So it's a really comprehend instruction and paragraphs uh, because yes, I think it's very tricky.
Very good. Yeah, that's precisely the idea. The contrast between the first certificate and TOEFL, or the big difference, is that when you're talking about the first certificate, you gotta understand. No, they give you a very difficult vocabulary to understand, a very native vocabulary to understand. In contrast with TOEFL, TOEFL gives you very easy vocabulary, but very contextual questions. You know,
Yes, but I think that contextual is easier than the Cambridge because the
totally.
Cambridge, I always feel like they are
Mhm.
more than one answer that is correct. And
Exactly.
I feel super confused with that one because I feel that I take too long to decide which one is the correct answer.
True.
And I think that is more tricky than these questions because I always feel like this kind of question, okay, where is mentioned China and Russia? And the first idea that comes to my mind, that is the correct one. But in the other one is like, oh my God, but there is two or three answers that seems correct.
Right. Totally right. Exactly. Which I think that if you do a first certificate before a TOEFL, TOEFL is going to be a piece of cake. Definitely, definitely, because for the first certificate is super native. It's super hard, to be honest. So
Just that
that's good.
happens with the TOEIC. The
Okay,
TOEIC only have like one section in grading that is complicated for me. The section that is for announcements, I
sure.
usually answer a, a which paragraph mentioned that, but it's something like these questions like the which means in the paragraph one this word, and you need to look for the meaning as a synonym.
Okay, okay. Well,
So
similar to the ones that we had before.
yes, that's right.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and that was it, right? TOEFL is like TOEIC. Sorry, is like very contextual and super
Mm-hmm.
specific information. That's
Yes,
it.
the questions are pretty similar to these ones.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Giving like what is the intention of the sender, what does the if you receive this email, what is your next action, no? So yeah, definitely they are very similar stuff. Mhm. So I that's very nice to have like experience in other tests, give you a nice view of how the panorama looks, no? TOEIC is very professional, very oriented about professional vocabulary, but it has questions very similar to TOEFL. So if you have a very similar approach, that can give you an easy way through the test, right? If you have done a TOEFL before, then you can see where is the mistake in particular. And you can say, okay, I didn't pay attention to this and this and this and that. I need to pay attention to this and this and this and that very specific points, right? I think that you are feeling, if you did a TOEFL before, you are feeling like in what cases you committed the mistakes, in what cases you need to pay attention, no? So that's the most important part. So that was the idea. Contextual is I need to check and pay attention to what the intention of the author is. Not my information, not information that I know, the author's information. Comprehension. Okay? Reference. Let's read this one. Help me. It's
Reference questions play the role similar to vocabulary questions. They assess you ability. They assess your ability to correctly identify the relationships between sentences. Thus, aiding,
okay. Pronunciation.
aiding.
Exactly. Aid. Aid
Okay.
is similar to help.
Okay.
Okay? And thus is a conjunction that means therefore.
Okay. Those aiding the overall comprehension of the text. Usually, you will see a pronoun highlighted in the paragraph. Your task will be to decide what it refers to. The examples too? Okay.
Yes, please.
Example, the word this in the paragraph 3, page 20, in this, and this makes monetary publicity contain those.
Okay. When the word finishes in TIO or TIOUS, that should be shus. For example, cautious,
Contentious.
contentious, exactly.
Contentious. Okay. And this makes monetary policy contentious refers to 1. Turbulent economic times, central bank's ability. 3. Good blanked currencies.
Watch out. What type of currencies?
Gold
Uh-huh.
blocked.
No, there's an A.
Blacked
There's
currencies.
no L.
As he backed.
Excellent. Okay, one more time. Number 3.
Gold back currencies. And 4. Government's decision on policy. I don't know. The correct answer is 2. Central bank's abilities. The sentence discusses the implication of a central bank's ability to achieve certain goals.
Okay, much better. Yes, of course. We don't have the text, of course. Like you are not reading the text. You're reading what the question is about, right? And the reference goes about the word this. That's why it's very important to know how to use pronouns like this, that, those, these, and it. Okay. Also, indefinite pronouns like one, anyone, someone, everyone, everybody, somebody, etc. References like this always talk about a previous information that was given. That's why that's the objective of a pronoun. Do you remember what a pronoun does? What was the usage of a pronoun? Or why do we use pronouns in English? To avoid something in particular.
We, oh no, we can avoid to repeat.
Excellent. That's precisely the objective. Pronouns are used to avoid repetition in a text, in any context. After you mention a person, then the second time you refer to the person, you're going to use the word he or she, right? You are not going to say Fernando, 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 Fernando all the way through the text. They're going to use he, they, etc. So the words this, that, those, and this are usually used to avoid repetition of information that you said before. This type of information, these questions, speak about this ability in particular. You don't get lost on the text. You know exactly what the text is referring to. Okay, that's question number 6. Question number 7. Sentence simplification. Chucho.
Yes. Sentence simplification. Work hard at your ability to summarize and generalize the information you are given, because this is what sentence simplification measures. You will be presented with a sentence from the passage. The goal is to choose the answer sentence that summarizes it best. Example: which of the following best expresses the essential information in the last sentence on page 20 throughout history? 1. The gold standard ensured that the exchange rates remain fixed up until World War II. 2. The gold standard coupled with a fixed exchange rate agreement ensured that exchange rates remain stable in most countries. 3. The Bretton Woods systems played a major role in guaranteeing that the gold standard remained in place. 4. After World War II, fixed exchange rates were adopted by most countries. The correct answer is 2. The 1, 3, and 4 are either incorrect or only partially correct. Okay.
That part of partially correct, this is the trick, eh? This is precisely the trick here. Every time you detect a sentence simplification question, be careful with the options because some of the sentences are going to be partially correct. Partially correct means that only one part of the information is true according to the text, but the other is not. I think that one is one of the most important questions in the test. Okay? Only one will match perfectly what we are reading. The rest are going to be just a way to distract you. TOEFL is about that. This is TOEFL in a nutshell. It's ways how the exam distract you from the important information. Technically. I know it's so tricky, but it's super, super effective. Okay. Sentence simplification. Number 8, insert text. And this is a question that corresponds to the exercise that we did on Friday. Right? Introducing text in the correct position. Titles match as well. Help me with this one, Isra.
Okay. Number 8, insert text. One question per passage. Frequently, a challenging task, insert text tests your reading comprehension to the maximum limit. Understanding the text flow and mastering grammatical connection between sentences is essential for success here. In this task, you will be given a new sentence and asked where in an existing paragraph it will be best. Remember that there is only one correct answer. Passage paragraph 2 and 3 on page 20. Example. Look at paragraph 2 and 3 on page 20. They discuss currency conversations using a gold standard.
Watch out,
One
it doesn't say currency conversation.
Discuss currency conversation.
It doesn't say conversation.
Conversion.
Conversion.
Yeah.
Because you cannot make conversation about currency.
They discuss currency conversion
Okay.
using a gold standard. One of the tests for squares will be
Again, it doesn't say one.
on the test for squares will be inserted into the paragraphs to indicate where a new sentence could be added to the passage. The correct answer will be the only paragraph out of 4 provided that makes sense grammatically and flows logically with the new sentences in it.
So you have a text and then you need to introduce a sentence in the square that you have. So you will see one paragraph with 4 different squares, right? Or many paragraphs with only one square and many options. Which sentence match the context? According to everybody agrees, this is the most difficult type of question. So don't worry about the rest. The rest isn't just about paying attention. This one in particular is about grammatical flow and contextual flow. Both need to match, right? Spend more time on the difficult tasks than the rest. Always focus on the difficult task. This is the one that is difficult. And it's very easy to determine a difficult task is coming because you will see the squares, right? If you see the squares, you see, okay, I need to pay attention to this particular question. The rest of them, I answer them according to the text, right? Don't give information, don't give input from myself, just extract information from the text. And the rest, when you arrive to insert test questions, this is when you need to pay really much grammar knowledge and structure knowledge. And that's pretty much it. This is the most difficult one. The rest are easy. And we're gonna do an example in a moment. Let's read the last two. The reading to learn questions. Reading to learn questions are very similar to factual questions because we are talking about specific points in the text. Okay? So let's try with number 9. Help me, Connie.
Prose, summary, somewhat similar to sentence simplification. Prose summary will ask you to identify the major arguments of the whole passage. For this text, learn to recognize minor details and pay attention to the whole idea. An argument.
What kind of details do we recognize?
Minor.
Okay, that one.
Minor.
Minor, exactly.
Minor details. And pay attention to the whole idea and argument of the passage instead. You will be given 6 answer choices out of which you need to pick 3 that best represent the major ideas of the text. Example, the passage describes the basic of exchange rates and how they are used throughout the world. What are the main points of the passage? Countries rely on the exchange of currency to conduct trade and financial transactions across borders. Trade and investments are impossible without established currency exchange systems. The European Union.
That's right, European.
European Union maintains a fixed exchange rate in between its member states, but are free floating one in relation to every other country. 3. The gold standard was a traditional way of pegging currency to a commodity gold and basing the exchange rates on that. 4. The Bretton Woods system allowed countries to maintain fixed currency rates and is still the norm today. 5. Several types of currency systems are in use today, including free floating, fixed and composite currency, fixed among others. 6. The AMF helps monitor currencies across the world, and every state's central bank has to comply with its policies and special drawing rights. The correct answer choice are 1, 2, and 5.
What's
Number
that again? What is the plural for choice?
choices.
Exactly.
The correct answer choices are 1, 2, and 5. Number 3 is true, but is a minor point. The 4 and 6 are incorrect.
So you gotta choose three different options. Three
Yes.
different options that are going here. Exactly. Right? Which one is true to the passage? Which one is not? Some people may consider this is a very difficult task, but it's just about paying attention on the synonyms and understanding contextual information. You know, that one is easier than the previous ones if you pay really, really, really much attention to the text. I suggest that the text should be read twice. You know, it's like the first one just to check what is the context about, and the second one for details. All right, I really recommend that you read texts twice because we usually read it only once and then we start answering questions. Try not to do that. Do this type of exercises twice, right? And the last one is fill in a table. This is less common, especially in modern TOEFLs, but sometimes they exist too. So let's read it really quick. Help me, Sophie.
Fill in a table, one per passage. This task measures your ability to structure and organize the information given to you in the passage. It will present you with an incomplete table that you need to fill in by dragging, and dropping correct answer choices into their correct locations on the table. You will be given more answer choices than there are spots on the table, so some will obviously be incorrect. Each answer can be used only once. Passage. Pages 20 to 22 of International Finance. Example, countries with a fixed currency system, and there's the two options that you have to fill with. Countries with a floating currency system. 1, 2, 3. Answer choices. You use a, no. How do you pronounce USA? No.
Letter by letter. Mm-hmm.
USA, okay. China, Russia, Japan, France, South Africa, Estonia. The complete table should be filled in as follows. Countries with a fixed currency system, 1, Russia, 2, Estonia. Countries with a floating currency system, USA, Japan, South Africa. China's currency is allowed to appreciate and hence is not fixed. France is not mentioned in the passage, but in the part
What
of the
happened with France?
European. France is not mentioned.
Okay, how do you pronounce the past of a verb that ends in N?
With T, mentioned?
Kinda. It's a D, but still we have a problem because you are pronouncing the E.
Okay, so
don't pronounce the E.
France is not mentioned.
Exactly.
Okay. in the passage, but it is part of the European Union, whose currency system is unique, discussed at the end of the passage.
That's pretty much it. This exercise is super easy. Super easy because it's punctual information from the text. You know, it's always like that. Again, less common in modern TOEFLs, but still sometimes it can happen. Now, sometimes the TOEFL test doesn't have the 10 questions. Sometimes it's 6 of them. Sometimes there are 8 of them, but it will never have the 10 of them. One of another trick from TOEFL is that they show you 10 different types of questions, but it will give you random numbers, right? That's the tricky part. So they prepare you in advance. You know what I mean? That is the secret about this exam. It's super tricky, but it's very specific in their tricks. You know? You're like, okay, the teacher told me that this question was not there. I don't remember that question in the exam, so don't worry. Don't worry. Probably the exam didn't even have it, right? The idea is to pay attention. That's the most important part. Now, talking about vocabulary, if you think about the vocabulary that you just read in the examples, what was the passage about? We have the example passage. So, what was the passage about?
Finances, economy.
Finances, economy of what? Closer, you're closer.
Countries.
Of countries. And what happens with these currencies of countries?
They are going out.
Okay, kinda, because we
Down?
don't know that information. Again?
Maybe down.
Maybe going down. Okay, exactly. Right? What countries in particular were we reading about?
I remember China.
China? France?
And maybe more in Europe.
Excellent. We were talking about the European Union. The European Union is this like group of European countries that have a very similar economic system. Right? As you can see, it was not even necessary to read the passage to know what the passage was about. Right? That's the thing about TOEFL. You need to pay attention to what is going on in the text. Okay? So, this is a little test, the first demo of what we are going to see in the TOEFL copies. Okay? We need to get familiar with this, and the same tips go for the listening section. The listening section has a very similar type of questions. Factual information, intention of the speaker, intention of the speaker, contextual information, vocabulary, things like that. Okay? The listening that we are going to do this week will be about credit cards, right? So we are going to start talking about credits, banks, information about all this, okay? This particular information is important to have in mind because we are going to face many different types of readings in TOEFL. And tomorrow, in this week, we are going to learn how to write an essay according to TOEFL standards. Okay? So I suggest that you practice all the vocabulary that you have before and start implementing these words into your your writing. Okay, so let's work on listening today, and we're gonna work on writing tomorrow. Let's go.
Every time you use your credit card, a whole series of behind-the-scenes steps and fees kicks in so you can get. But this system has been getting more and more expensive.
Okay, your total will be $14.85, please.
This $15 lunch probably cost the shop around 37 to 46 cents in various fees. It adds up, and it's why this place prefers cash.
We have the cash sign so that we don't have to pay fees. We save money. We save money on every sale.
Some businesses are even starting to implement surcharges, adding around 3% to your bill if you pay by credit card. And now Congress is getting involved.
Swipe fees just aren't annoying to the retailers. They're anti-competitive.
Here's how the credit card fee system works and what Congress is trying to change. Your credit card involves two main companies, your bank, which loans you the money, and the card network that handles the transaction, like Visa or MasterCard. Those two companies handle the most credit card transactions in the US. When you use your credit card, the transaction runs through a store's processing system through the credit card's network to your card's bank, and there are fees throughout these steps. The processing system's fee is generally fairly low, around 0.1% of the total purchase. There's a large market the merchant can choose from, which can keep this cost down. Then there's the credit card's network fee, around 0.25%. And the largest fee of this system also happens here, the interchange fee. It's usually around 2 to 3%. It's set by the card networks, but it's paid to your bank that issued your credit card.
You get rewards for every purchase.
Everything?
Essentially, that fee helps to fund the rewards that we all get when we use our credit cards.
Earn 5% on travel purchased through Chase with Chase Freedom Unlimited.
Cashback credit cards or credit cards with miles for travel benefits. Someone's paying for that. It can be only a few cents or maybe a few dollars, but then think about how much that adds up when you take into account all transactions being made.
Merchants paid banks and other credit card issuers interchange fees set by Visa and MasterCard, roughly $55 billion just last year. Interchange fees vary by card. Generally, a higher rewards card will come with a higher interchange fee, and businesses have little control over this. They can't choose to not accept a high rewards card because of the fees. If they want to accept any of a network's credit cards, they have to accept all of that network's credit cards.
In the end, what ends up playing out is that because the interchange fees are hefty, merchants kind of build that in to the sticker prices that we all see, in many cases, regardless of how we pay. So the cash shopper and the credit card shopper are often paying the same price, but the credit card shopper is getting the rewards.
If a credit card network raises fees, which they did on many purchases this year, businesses have few choices. It's these rising fees that has Congress wanting the credit card system to look more like the debit card system. When you use your debit card, the transaction looks similar. It runs through the store's processor, through a card network to your bank. But in 2010, Congress passed the Durbin Amendment, that same Durbin. It lowered and set a cap on the interchange fees that card networks could set for many banks. And it made banks enable a second network that merchants could use, instead of the card network that's on the front of your card.
So the idea here is merchants should have the choice of being able to choose between the more affordable of the networks. So if sending the transaction over the network that's not Visa or MasterCard is cheaper for the merchant, then why shouldn't it be able to do that? So it was essentially meant to inject competition into the debit card space while also enabling for lower costs potentially for merchants.
And that's what a Democrat and Republican senator want to do to the credit system. Their bill isn't imposing a cap on the fees, but it would require larger banks that use Visa or MasterCard networks to enable a second network to make it competitive like the debit system, which should lower fees. Banks and credit card companies aren't thrilled about it.
There's a potential ripple effect here. If the banks are receiving lower interchange fees than they currently are, and interchange fees are funding credit card rewards programs, what would happen to those rewards programs?
Banks are concerned that this legislation would limit the amount of rewards they could offer, and the networks also argue their fees go towards things like network security and innovation. Merchants, especially small businesses, are concerned that the increasing fees are becoming too much on top of already rising prices.
There are two sides to this argument. Credit cards incentivize people to spend more than they otherwise would. Credit cards result in more sales than merchants would otherwise get. And there are also costs associated with not accepting credit cards, like if you're a cash-only business, being concerned about cash theft, and other issues. On the other side, the merchant industry is saying, yeah, but our costs continue to rise as credit cards become more and more common for consumers to use when they're shopping and fees increase.
Businesses have few options to offset these rising fees, so more and more places are passing them along to consumers. So if the price to use credit cards continues to go up, so might your lunch.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your chicken parm. Thank you. Have a good day.
What an important issue, Jesus Christ. Wow, okay. If you're gonna tell me what you understood in a moment, Jessie will pass attendance. Jessie?
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Hello.
So we're going to take attendance, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Connie?
Here, good morning.
Good morning, Connie. Thank you. Itse?
Itse de... acaba de irse, creo.
All right.
Ujú.
Jesus?
También.
Okay. Luis? Alejandro? Alex?
Absent.
All right. Absent. Sophie?
Present, Jessie.
Thank you, Sophie. Good morning. First?
Here, Jessie, good morning.
And Israel?
Hola, I'm here.
Hi, Israel. Thank you. So somebody else?
That's it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Have a good day. See you later.
Thank you.
All right. How do credit cards work? What did you understand?
I understood something about the fees. That the fees are the ones that allow us as a customers of a credit card to have benefits like not paying fees in 6 months or something like that, and also maybe the points that the banks here in Mexico give
Right.
us. But they are concerned about the increase of the fees, and they are saying that probably they are going to stop allowing the pay with credit cards in the small business.
Yes, totally. They give you they that's the way money circles. No, there is of course the usage of your card, but this particular fee can get you money back. In theory, that sounds good, right? Or that worked well before, right? So that was the way credit cards worked, etc. You were gonna say something, Sophie. Tell me what you have in mind.
Yeah, I say something similar to Connie,
Hmm.
and that's also that the commerce or the stores and everything, they used to add extra an extra price when you pay with credit card or something like that. And I would say that I don't know what is fees exactly, but of course I can infer with all the information. But at the when the video starts, it's like fees, and it's like, what is fees? In the first place. So
Okay, but you said extra cost, right? Or extra price, right? Well, you gave a definition of fee. Extra price is a fee.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly. So that makes sense that every single or the context of the idea of the video can provide the definition of certain mysterious words. No?
Yeah. After all the video, I infer exactly the same. That is the extra cost, but
very good.
When it starts, it was difficult because it's like, what is fee?
Which is a challenge. It's like, oh, what is fee? What are we talking about? Yes, we are talking about the cost or the extra amount of money that we pay for every single thing. Do you remember how many fees there was on a transaction, Sophie?
I think that it's one point something.
Something,
no,
okay.
I don't remember the other number.
Okay,
first.
no problem. No, how many? How many fees? Because it's different to say how much. You know, if we say how much, we are talking about the percentage. But if you say how many, I'm talking about the quantities of fees. How many fees there was?
I think that 3.
Excellent. Yes. There were 3 different fees, and each one of them represented a price for a different person. So that's a very interesting thing. We're gonna see that in a moment. Tell me, Fer, what else can you add?
The thing that it wasn't clear for me is that if all these extra fees are going to be paid by the customer or by the person who has the business, because the lady said whenever you are able, pay with cash instead of credit card. So in that example, it makes me think that they pay those extra fees.
Yes.
But in other part of the video, it says that when you pay with your credit card, it's going to have like an extra fee. So I'm confusing. Who's paying these extra fees? The owner of the business, the small business, or
the customer?
Yes. And I think I've never seen this in real life, but this last Friday, I went to Sam's to see the sales with the Buen Fin. And I saw a mattress that was on sale, so I decided to buy it. And the initial price was 2,500. So I said like, okay, it's a good deal. And they give me like a piece of paper so I can pay with that. And in the piece of paper, it says that if you pay with your credit card, you will be charged 2.5% an extra. I don't remember the exact amount, but at the end, I paid like 2,600 and something. So it was not too much difference, but it wasn't the 200 and 500.
Exactly, because the price didn't include the
extra
transaction
fee.
cost.
Yeah, correct.
Wow. Even in Sam's, I mean, you can think that this can happen in a small business, but in a retail store like that's
Yeah, that was surprising for me too. I've never seen that someone charged me an extra for paying with credit card.
Dude, that's super weird. It is so impressive because it's like they are managing prices in a different way now. Inflation is so worrying, and it's like the cost of things is going up so fast that they have to tell you this is the price, but this is the price if you pay in credit card. Like, so what? I have to extract all my cash now? I have to pay in cash everything?
Yes, it will be cheaper.
Imagine to carry 2,000 pesos in your pocket to buy a mattress. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. Wow. You surprised me. I didn't expect it to happen in a retail store like Sam's Club.
No, me neither.
Wow. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy.
Yes.
So you had a question at the beginning. You said, okay, who pays for those transactions? Either the customer or the store, right?
Mhm.
We are going to discover that in the video, right? But I can tell you that there is some information in the video that says both in different ways, right? There is one, Sophie mentioned that there were three different fees when you made a transaction, right? One of them is paid by the store, and two of them are paid by the customer, right? That, of course, is not explicitly said, right? But many of the retail stores are trying to motivate you to pay in cash to save you money and them. It's like you are going to pay a fee, I'm going to pay a fee. Let's make a deal and let's pay in cash. You know what I mean? That's what
Yes, it's
everybody.
better for both parts.
Exactly. It's better for both parts. Say, do you have cash? Because that's better. You know? I went to on it was on Halloween. I was buying candy for the kids in my tower, and the guy told me, "Hey, you're gonna pay in credit card. Good. I can accept your card, but it's gonna be at 2% more." And I was like, "Yeah, like that doesn't matter. Like everybody does that, right?" But then I understood. I was thinking about this, and I was like, "But 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, nobody told you that, no? Nobody told you
But
that."
I read something that it can be illegal because they need to, the business need to pay that,
Exactly.
not you as a
Not you.
customer. But, I remember in Twitter, I see some information about that you can refuse to pay that extra money.
Totally.
Because it's not legal that the customer needs to pay that.
Oof. What a moment to think about it, because imagine in case of a Ferris mattress, for example. Like I'm paying the mattress. You can refuse to pay that particular amount because that was not in the price, right?
Yes.
Once.
Mhm.
No?
Yes, maybe they will call the manager.
Yeah, it will be
Exactly.
a big deal.
It will be massive.
And at the end, you don't want to pass through all the problem and all the, so you're gonna pay them.
That's precisely the issue. It's like you're gonna
But
pay.
I don't know if this with the credit card is the illegal thing, because I remember that when all the little things when you can pay with debit or credit card like Clip or Mercado Pago or this, I don't know the name in English, these things.
Oh, the
They sorry.
tools, like finance tools.
Okay, so these finance tools,
Mm-hmm.
when you make a charge, it says like, okay, because you're going to use the system of Mercado Pago, for example. So Mercado Pago is going to charge you something for use their system.
Yeah.
So this charge
For
is,
using.
I think, for users, yes. So I think that Connie is saying, it's talking about these ones in particular, not with the credit card. Because some people said, okay, if you're gonna pay with card, it doesn't matter if it's credit card or debit card, I'm going to charge you the commission, like it's 2% or 1%. And it's when you say, okay, it doesn't matter. And I think that it's illegal, that you cannot pay for that extra charge. But with the credit card, I don't know how does it work. I don't know if I can say, I don't want to pay for your fees.
Well, it depends. Because if you're talking about credit card, there's still two types of fees: the one that you pay and the one that they pay, or that's why I am surprised, because if we are talking about a store like Sam's Club, they should add these fees to the price, don't you think?
Yes.
Even though you are paying in cash, like the same cost it has to pay in cash should be the same cost that you pay in credit card.
Yes, but it increased the price and you are not going to see the discount.
And the supposed Black Friday is gone away.
Yes,
No?
it's a false discount.
Exactly, it's a total false discount. And it's not that they are raising prices freely. No. It's that they are just omitting fees, but then you go to pay and there's a fee again.
Yes, and as you say, we are more like, okay, I will pay that. But if you see that the price is higher, you are not going to pay that.
Exactly, because at the end it's 2%, right? You will say, okay, charge it.
Yes, because it's not a lot of money.
Because it's not a lot of money.
Well, for us, I think that we have the ability to pay it. It's not ability.
No, it's affordable. Let's say.
Yeah, we can afford that, so it's not a problem. But I imagine if someone saw that sale on Sam's and they have just the 2,500 pesos in their credit card, and at the end it would be 2,600.
It's like, what happened?
Kind of a lie thing. I don't know if you can sue them because of that.
Definitely you can. That's precisely the thing that Connie was mentioning. Profeco would say, hey, the price is this. You know? The price that is displayed is a price that you should pay. You know? And it doesn't matter if it's credit, it doesn't matter if it's anything. That's why you include the fees in the price. As an independent worker, in my case, everybody asks me, does it include IVA? You know, because it's a very common practice that independent workers don't include the fee of IVA. And it's like, bro, yes, it includes IVA. Why are you asking that? You know, like, why is it so normal to say, hey, is it the full price? This is so sadly normalized.
Yes, I remember that when I traveled to the USA, and there the prices doesn't include IVA, so it's okay. It's $10 plus IVA, so you always have to think plus IVA plus IVA. It's not always the $10.
Exactly.
Yes. But I think that in the USA they manage things like that, because in any store they never include the fees.
But I think that's production of. I mean, that's a result of inflation, a result of high cost prices. When prices are going so up, stores are going to show or display cheaper costs, so they attract clients. You know, and I think that's going to be very seen in this weekend's Black Friday. Be careful if you're going to buy something in these weeks. Check the prices, guys. Check the fees and taxes, because the 20% discount is going to become 5% discount. You know. Sophie, you're trying to say something, sis.
Yeah, that I think that in Mexico the stores do that because they are trying to avoid taxes.
Yeah.
Because if you have the paid with credit card, of course the bank informs, give that information to the SAT, and the SAT knows that you are receiving money. So if you're receiving money, you have to pay taxes. But if you don't give the information that you receive money in a cash, the SAT maybe don't know that you receive the certain amount of money and you don't pay the taxes that you have to pay.
Okay.
And I think that is also a reason that they add sometimes an extra or a fees when you pay with a credit card. But there is also, I don't know if you have seen this type of business, but there's many restaurants, stores, small stores that give you a discount when you pay with cash instead of credit card.
Precisely.
An extra discount because they are motivated you to pay with cash because also they can avoid some
Paying
taxes.
taxes, exactly. And cash will always be the way. Or people think that you avoid the tax, but you are not avoiding the tax because all the products come with IVA, and all the there is in Mexico we call it what's the name? Referred? No. There is a type of IVA that you pass to the next buyer, and there is another type of IVA that you retain. Retain is the word. The one that you pass to the market is, I have 2 tomatoes and 2 eggs, right? These 2 tomatoes and 2 eggs to make my breakfast cost 15% IVA, but I pay the IVA to the supplier. So the supplier is going to pay the tax, and I don't have to pay the tax because the supplier paid it. You know what I mean? So when
That's
you're
sorry, that's why the prices are lower in the street market.
Of course, all the taxes and all the suppliers are already paid. Everything was in the market, and now I just give you the best, the product and my profit, my personal profit. That's exactly why in a personal way and in a market everything is cheaper. Mhm. This tax world is many, we are scared about taxes, but I promise you, it's a very, very fantastic world. Once you understand it, it's super interesting. Really.
You should understand it.
Yes, we should understand it. We have
If you
to.
don't understand it, that is the worst part.
That's the worst part, exactly. Yeah, we have to take courses and things like that in order to understand it. But when you understand it, you're like, okay, everything makes sense. Everything makes total sense. You know? Don't worry about that. Let's talk about this credit card soon. I'm gonna pass you vocabulary these days, and tomorrow we're gonna talk about your essay. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent chat, guys. Very good kickoff. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.